It's a weird tangent to have in the Mary Tyler Moore episode.
Do you like Mary Tyler Moore and Metallica?
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about The Mary Tyler Moore Show. The Mary Tyler Moore Show went 168 episodes over 7 seasons on CBS. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Love Is All Around, originally airing September 19th, 1970. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, most of them, Joe, Ferg, and Gordo. What's going on, guys? No Nick this week.
Hello.
Hey,
I hate Spunk.
you love Spunk. Who you kidding?
Mary Tyler Moore loves Spunk. She was in Playboy. She loves Spunk.
Oh, wow. All right. Welcome back, guys. This is week 3 of Mother's Month,
Happy
where
Mother's Day.
for the entirety of the month of May, we decided to give all our moms a pick. So this is week 3. This is Gordo's mom's pick, Mary Tyler Moore Show. Gordo, any particular reason? Did she give you any insight? How was that process? We've talked about it. It was kind of difficult extracting shows from my mom.
No, my mother actually picked this pretty good. That doesn't make any sense.
Pretty easily.
Pretty easily. Yeah. So, I'm trying to find the chat, but it was basically, talk that much. I'm trying to find it.
Search the word Mary.
Mary Tyler, our old teacher, Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
A plane hit the building.
Oh,
No, so my mother always liked this show, Bob Newhart and the Dick Van Dyke Show, but my mom picked this one.
yeah. And then obviously Mary Tyler Moore, famously
From Dick Van
known
Dyke.
from the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then the show happens after the fact. I'm glad to cover this show. I'm a little bummed because I kind of thought this would have been a weird theme month to do, where there's 3 spinoffs of Mary Tyler Moore Show, so we could have gotten away with
And
a
they're
month.
all better than this?
They're all just named after the characters. So there's Rhoda, Phyllis, and Lou Grant, and the names
Yeah.
of the 3 spin-off shows. There was no creativity that went into
Lou
any of it.
Grant is like a drama, isn't it?
No, it's still a sitcom, but it's a little more serious. He's in LA. Rhoda, I will say, that was a much funnier sitcom.
It's more serious than this?
I remember watching Rhoda reruns way more as a kid than Mary Tyler Moore ones.
Really? I don't have much recollection of watching Rhoda.
Merry Mondays.
Rhoda got a lot of play on TV Land as opposed to Nick at Night getting a lot of Mary Tyler Moore.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's what it was. So yeah, I mean, I definitely watched a really good amount of the Mary Tyler Moore Show as a kid, and it's funny. I mean, this is now, it's not, the streaming services are so weird. So I don't know if obviously for us, this is a show that comes out 15 years before we're alive. The show's over before we're born. But because of things like Nick at Night, we grew up watching so many of these classic shows.
Yeah.
Do kids now, when they're on streaming, they're not going to seek out old shows and watch them?
No,
'Cause
kids
they're
don't
not
do that. Kids have no respect for what came before them, unlike us who...
Breaks my heart.
we know movies that came out years before.
I want some 14-year-old to be like, I'm not going out tonight. No one's around. I'm going to watch Yes Dear all night. That would make me so fucking happy.
It's just so, but you got to think about it like this too. When we're kids, younger kids, we watch Nickelodeon all day. Then at the end of the day, we're still awake and we're allowed to stay in bed and, watch TV a little longer. Nick at Night comes on and it's playing all these classic sitcoms. There's nothing else for us to put on. You know what I mean?
Right.
No,
So we're just
no,
watching
there
it. We don't have a lot of options. Now kids can watch their favorite programs at any time on demand. We literally it's just, not to date ourselves, but other than if you wanted to pop something in the VCR, it just wasn't the same kind of way that we took in media. So now they're not being force fed it. I'm glad we did watch these things, but it was almost like we had to. We didn't have a choice.
I will say, I think it's such a weird thing, but those options were think of Mary Tyler Mondays, right? It was okay, it's 10 p.m. You can watch Mary Tyler Moore be a funny version of the news, or you can watch the news. And at
Right.
10, that's
Yeah.
a pretty easy choice to make. You know what I mean? And for me with movies, especially like Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon movies on like Fox or whatever, like, you know, your like local cable networks, they'd play like movies and there's 7 channels on the non-cable TV and you just watch what was on. Like, and I feel like it,
Like Three Stooges marathon. Woo!
yeah, like Three Stooges run. Fuck yeah. Oh no, it's a Curly Joe. Fuck this. I'm going outside. Dun, 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 dun.
Or if you were really lucky, you'd get a nice Shemp episode.
Of course, Shemp is your favorite.
I mean, I'm pro Shemp over Curly Joe. I'll say that.
Yeah. Shemp is better than Curly Joe.
Well, nobody likes Curly Joe.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for Curly Joe Dorita because it wasn't his fault. He just happened to fall into the troupe at the end, right? Like, that's like being the new singer in a band 30 years in, right? Like, it's like the guy who sings in Journey now, right? And
I was just about
Journey.
to mention him.
I was going to say Linkin
The
Park.
little Filipino guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that guy, it's not his fault he's in Journey in 2025. That's just his job, you know?
He's really excited to be in Journey.
Which is a terrible thing because I fucking hate Journey.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather see Journey with him for that spectacle than with Steve Perry.
I just heard a story the other day where this dude walked up to Steve Perry like in line at like a donut shop and was like, I had a really bad time at your concert once and I fucking hate your band. And Steve Perry turned and went, hey, fuck you. I was like, no, I hate Steve Perry, but good for Steve Perry for having the balls to be like, hey, fuck you, man. That's not my fault.
Steve Perry.
So anyways, we're already getting into some wild tangents. Quickly, IMDb has this in as an 8.3. Rotten Tomatoes 90. Well, Rotten Tomatoes only had season 1 score, not an overall score. Usually I do overall series. 92% for critics, 83 audience. And then if you want to watch Mary Tyler Moore, can watch the show on Hulu. It's available streaming there.
I will say this to that rating, Mary Tyler Moore as an ensemble comedy is a great show. This pilot is much less of the ensemble comedy this show becomes.
Yes, but we'll get into it. And I feel like we're going to have conflicting opinions about this episode, but we'll get into it. And then the only other thing, real quick, just kind of looking at some stuff. I saw that this show is put on Time's 2007 list of the 17 shows that changed TV.
Oh, yeah, that one time that she pooped in the bathroom.
No, it's Gordo.
No, it's the
Why?
show in general. I know you're trying to get your Gordo stuff in.
Actually, I didn't expect that. You'd think I'd be used to his.
I know. But in general, you look at the Mary Tyler Moore show, and this was like a lot of things, came of this. This was like, I think That Girl was like right before it, but it didn't quite break as many boundaries as this one did. Just the kind of what this did for women on television. A lot of things. Wasn't it when she was still on Mary Tyler Moore in general? Was it on Dick Van Dyke? She was like the first woman to wear pants on television.
Probably, yeah.
So, and that kind of continued on with the show. A lot of like boundaries broken for Mary Tyler Moore, who she says she's 30 in the episode. I think I looked it up. She was about 34 when this episode actually came out. Not to be like just a dude and objectifier, but oh my, as I'm older now, like I don't think as a kid I realized quite how beautiful Mary Tyler Moore was.
Yeah.
But now that she's only like, I'm looking back at her now a few years younger than I am now to be like, oh my God, she's like stunning.
Yeah.
It's weird looking back now too on this stuff, like having all these years later, we're like Mary Tyler Moore a babe. I think Rhoda's a babe. I don't know if you guys agree.
Rhoda's a babe.
That's a personal
Rhoda
decision.
almost didn't get the job because of how attractive she was.
Yeah, they were like, you're too much of a babe to be the annoying neighbor.
Yeah, they had to like ugly her up with her clothes and stuff because they were afraid that she was too attractive to be her role.
You can tell she comes into this episode and she's like, I'm a grouch. And you're like, you were a beautiful lady.
Yeah.
You were not a grouch. Like, this is such a weird casting. But Cloris Leachman
Yep, babe
looks
in this.
so much younger than I ever remember seeing her, but still I'm not like, and that's usually a Joe thing, but like Cloris Leachman.
No, I thought she was a babe.
She's beautiful. But I think we have a connotation of her like she had such a fruitful career later in life where she was constantly working, where now it's embedded in our brain. When you hear her name, the image that first appears in your head is of her older. Where when you think of Mary Tyler
even her
Moore,
name, she sounds like an old lady.
Yeah.
That's an old lady.
But she's
name.
young enough at this point that she has like a baby kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Your brain, like, this show is so weird. We're like, Cloris Leachman was in The Office. Like, and Ed Asner was in Cobra Kai. Like, people who are in this show, lived so long and never stopped working that they were all in shit until like very recently, and that's crazy to think about.
I mean, we know from our thanks episode that Cloris Leachman was on the Mayflower.
I will say people don't love that era of The Office as much as I do, but Jack Black yelling "reverse the button" at Cloris Leachman as she goes up on the motorized chair is one of the funniest Office moments of all time.
Yeah, I remember I was busting my gut.
Gordo was right there with all of us.
Yep, right there.
It was right after we all went to my house and watched Top Gun, and then, like, we're known to do.
We've all watched it. We've all been in the same room.
We have never watched Top Gun together.
And yeah, not to get into this for the millionth time. I've watched probably 1,000 movies with all you guys, like growing up, like hanging out. I don't think that was one of them. But
It 100%.
we'd go to the video store and be like, "Ooh, the dead hate the living." That's what we would rent. We'd never be like, "Oh, watch Top Gun." Like that was not a renting, hangout, get pizza movie for us.
ooh,
Like,
the
not that
Ghoulies.
style. We weren't like, "Ooh, we should watch fucking Ghoulies." Is the one with Donkey Lips, right?
I believe so.
No, you're thinking of,
Oh no, Ghoulies is the little monsters in the toilet. I'm thinking of
the fuck is it called?
Spookies.
Oh, that movie's The Willies. That's my
The
weird
Willies,
brain
thank you.
working.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Anyways, this is so far away from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So to get right into the show, starts with the intro. The intro, you just kind of see the title of the show. You see her driving, and like as she's driving, there's all these kind of memories flashing in her head, and you see in like little clips. Eventually, she gets to Minneapolis. You just kind of see her walking around the streets of downtown Minneapolis. Ends with her throwing her hat in the air. The song is also very iconic. Changes from season 1 on. It was just kind of like a revamped version of the same "Love Is All Around," which is the name of
They
the
changed the lyrics,
episode.
right?
They're gonna
Yeah.
make it after all.
Bum, 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 bum.
And they say what? Like, you could just make it after all.
They like reword it and make it a little bit more like centered towards her, I think, in like the,
Yeah,
in the
because
second
it
season
becomes
on.
"You're gonna make
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
after
it becomes
all."
"You're Gonna," yeah, which is the famous thing. And this is Sonny Curtis, who was in the Crickets with Buddy Holly.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
He also wrote "I Fought the Law," like one of the most enduring 50s rock songs of all time.
What an odd catalog to have like both of the
Dude made money, though.
Well, sure.
And he also luckily didn't get on a plane. If I was that dude, I'd be like, I take a train everywhere. I never ever. Him and Waylon Jennings especially, I'd be like, I will
Yeah.
never fly ever again.
This is another TV Land statue that exists that like I would like to see one day if I ever find myself in Minneapolis. The Mary Tyler Moore like throwing the hat in that like spot like exists.
I hope that they make one and whatever. What park has the Duff Brewery and the Moe's and everything?
Universal.
In Universal.
Universal, yeah. You know in the Simpsons episode where Homer's singing it, where he gets the job at the bowling alley and he throws the bowling ball up and it crashes into the floor? I feel like they should make a statue replicating the Mary Tyler Moore one doing that at the Universal.
That's not going to be there much longer. Their contract ends in like a couple years, and they signed that before Disney bought Fox. Now own The Simpsons.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Is it like fucking Minions or
Why,
something?
that area sucks.
I like it. That's a whole separate conversation. I do want to find I gotta get like a list of all the TV Land statues. I want to try to like see them all.
Minneapolis is a tough one because you really have to go there in the summer. I mean, Minneapolis is
Yeah.
one of the rare cities in the entire world that has like underground and like glass tubes to like take you from building to building because it gets so fucking cold that no one wants to go outside. I'm glad I didn't grow up in Minneapolis as a smoker. I imagine that was a fucking nightmare.
I've seen the Bronze Fawns, which is in Milwaukee, and then I kind of feel like
We've seen the Tabitha one.
I was gonna say we're from Boston. We have the Tabitha one in Salem, Mass, which I kind of feel like is a misstep. If we're gonna get one in the state, I feel like there should have been a Sam Malone in front of Cheers. I think. Obviously, Bewitched,
I mean,
another
I'm pro both of them.
iconic show, yeah, and we've covered both. So if you want to listen back, you know we've done Cheers, we've done.
I want a weird one though. I want Coach or I want Lilith. I don't want Sam Malone.
I feel like that's the one you have to do. You have to do Sam Malone in front of Cheers.
Well, Cheers is gone.
Well, the Bull and Finch is still there.
It's a dinosaur exhibit, I think. But do you think that we could petition TV Land?
Does TV Land exist? Like, who even takes care of these statues anymore?
That's what I'm saying. Like, do you think that we could take it over?
No, we don't have money. Do what?
Also, I don't think TV Land exists in the same way it used to, where they're pumping out like original content. I think it's basically just a cable frequency that plays reruns. I don't think they're making much money off of it. I think it's like MeTV. But even MeTV has Svengoolie, so.
What universe do you think we live in that we can take over a channel?
I'm not saying take over the channel. I'm saying take over the statues. And we charge people $5 to
We
take a
take
photo.
over the statue.
Which is
How do you,
pirates.
Gordo, how do you charge someone to look at a statue?
Easily, you put a box around it, and then they step into the box, and then they take their photo.
Yeah, and so, look, Gordo, how many people do you think would pay actual money to see a Sam Malone statue?
Any statue. If it was just in a box.
Listen, people pay to go see the Statue of Liberty.
That's a spectacle.
That's a little different. Also, there are a bunch of statues.
It's a statue. It's a statue.
I feel like the only statues aside from something like the Statue of Liberty, which is like a massive scale, and also Ghostbusters 2, is going to be like all the statues where you rub their genitals and they're for good luck.
And then the color is different in that one part because it's been rubbed a million
I
times.
love that so much. Yeah, there's so many statues where the cock is just bronze still and everything else is green. It's so great.
Gordo, for your next book, why do you travel the country and just find all the statues that have bronze cocks all across the country and get photos with them?
You'd think the Tabitha one would like her boobs would be like discolored.
Right.
You would.
I just imagine you in Salem just, hey, creep.
Because it's in the middle of the square, too. Like, it's...
Like Gordo goes in October of all times too, where there's 10,000 fucking people in every dude. Salem is a nightmare any time of the year. That's not.
That's not so bad. Just don't go in October.
It's busy all the time, but going anytime in the fall is a nightmare.
It's the only time my wife wants to go to Salem. Is in October.
You should tell her that it's still very fun in July.
No, she likes to go. We've gone in the summer too, but it's not the same. It's not Spooky Town.
Have you taken her to the Salem Witch Trials Museum where it's like, Tabitha, you did the murder?
Oh, the House of Seven Gables, which is like the coolest name ever until you realize it just means it's a house with 7 points to it.
You're like, oh, okay. You go there, you're like, are you scared? Like, no. Are you thirsty? Yes. How about a $9 bottle of water? Oh, it is scary. You're correct.
You're a witch!
I also love any of those places where you actually exit through the gift shop. It's such a fucking great move. You're like, anybody want a $9 bottle of water or a $35 t-shirt? We're going to be here anyway. Being at that museum is like being in Legends of the Hidden Temple. It just sounds like Omek is talking to you the whole time. Lights are flashing and you're like, this cost $37 for some fucking reason.
What great banter we should have put in our Bewitched episode. But
we can edit it back in.
Yeah, we'll sneak it back in.
I feel like we barely mentioned Salem in our Bewitched episode.
Anyways, to get into this now, first scene, we see an exterior of a house. It's a snowy day, and then we cut inside, and we see Mary's being brought in by Phyllis to like show her the apartment. Phyllis is with her daughter, so it's just kind of like, oh, what do you think? She's like, oh, it's really charming, and her daughter's like, why are we showing her the apartment? It's like, oh, because she's going to be living here. Won't that be fun having Aunt Mary living right upstairs from us? She goes, she's not my aunt. And then Mary's like, well, that's right, Bess, but, you know, I'm not really your aunt, but your mother and I, we've known each other such a long time. And then Phyllis goes, no, Bess is right, Mary. We try to be very truthful about things like this in our family, so, like, you're not actually her aunt. And I was like, you're the one who fucking said that to her. Like,
Yeah.
A weird thing. Would any of you have been at my house with my daughter? I'm like, oh, look, it's Uncle Ferg. Like, it's just a thing you do. Like, you're not going to push back on that.
it was weird that she referred to Mary as
Aunt Mary.
Oh, your Aunt Mary's going to be moving in. And then she's like, she's not my aunt. And then when Mary's trying to explain it, Phyllis is the one who goes, hey, we don't like to lie to her. You're not really her aunt. It's like, but you said that. You were the one. I was so frustrated in that moment.
I don't understand this kid. Like, her character.
Her character, I struggled a little bit with the direction of where she was supposed to be. Just a kid, and she likes Rhoda, as we find out. That'll come up in a second.
Because I don't even like Rhoda in this episode, and I love Rhoda.
I agree with you. I love Rhoda. Rhoda is unlikable in this episode.
I didn't find the person I find the hardest time liking is Phyllis throughout this episode, to be completely honest with you.
Right, Phyllis gets her friend a house and stuff.
Well, the most unlikable character of this whole episode is clearly Bill.
Yeah, we'll meet Bill in a little bit. We'll go over all these reasons as we get through the episode, I suppose.
Bill.
So
Bill,
right after this,
Bill.
Bess goes, I thought this was going to be Aunt Rhoda's apartment. And then Mary's like, who's Aunt Rhoda? Oh, that dumb, awful girl who lives upstairs that Bess likes. So she's not her aunt. She's willing to call her Aunt Rhoda, but doesn't. I get that. I guess there's like the writing fits here now because like we're finishing the joke where she wouldn't call her Aunt Mary and says she's not my aunt.
Because an aunt is a bad thing in Phyllis's.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, and it's Mary. It's like, oh, it's your Aunt Mary. Phyllis refuses to call her aunt. And then you get the reciprocal later where she calls Rhoda her aunt, but Phyllis is the one saying she's not your aunt. So, I mean, I see how it was structured, but I just thought it was complicated.
I know she doesn't like Rhoda, but why doesn't she want her to have that apartment? It's not like her not moving there doesn't mean she's not in the building still because she lives there.
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that just because she doesn't like her, she just wants her to not have something. So it's just like a spite move.
What I gathered from this was that apartment is the nicer apartment. So
Yes.
Rhoda wants to step up. And to be fair, it has a sunken living room. It has exposed brick. But it also is a studio apartment. I do not understand the layout.
It's literally a studio apartment.
Hey!
I was gonna bring that up. I didn't see we only saw that one room. So I didn't understand. Are we just not seeing other rooms?
Nope.
Is it because
You see her making the sofa bed. It's a studio. The only other room is the bathroom.
was that what it was? I thought it was just like because she knew Bill was coming and like
Nope, that's the whole apartment. It's a studio. So it's
Really?
it's basically a house that they've converted into 3 apartments, and her apartment is the attic. So it's one big room, and they've built a half bath in it. So her bedroom is in that weird sunken living room, which is a very 70s thing. That I love sunken living rooms. I think it's such a cool old thing that no one will do anymore. But it's if you like look it up too, it's like she lives in a studio in Minneapolis. Like they call it out.
Oh. So wait a minute. If she has a half bath, where does she shower?
Rhoda's.
Yeah, Penthouse Forum.
Dear Playboy edition that had Rhoda in it.
So we find out that Phyllis is so eager to make sure that Mary gets the place instead of Rhoda. She even signed the lease on Mary's behalf before Mary even saw the place, just to ensure that Rhoda couldn't get it.
We're committing forgery and fraud a minute into the episode.
Also, what if Mary didn't like the place? Although it sounds like she's not in a position where she could say no, but
It's a weird thing too. And again, this is no shade on Minneapolis, but there are other things too where it's like, I had to move to Minneapolis because things didn't work out here. And I'm like, there's other places you could go.
Yeah, but that's a good area. All the best pubs are in that area.
That is true. And also at this time, AWA wrestling, we had Gagne territory going on. You had Baron von Raschke running around.
Oh, wow. Sign me up.
I would have been excited.
a little too early for all the good guys out there, like the Midnight Rockers.
This is not 80s Gagne. This is, I want to say, Bobby Heenan probably was there early. This is around Bobby Heenan time, yeah.
Are you just trying to keep pace with how boring Mary Tyler Moore is?
Look, Bobby Heenan was a good promo even in the early 70s.
The Weasel's the greatest.
Yeah, you can't shut on Bobby.
I'll say this, Berg, in general, where you say like boring.
I was very bored. I'll get that out of the way right now. This whole episode.
So I understand where you're coming from. I don't necessarily feel the same way, but I'll say this, like now that as we're in the midst of like Mother's Month, right? We're kind of by chance doing a whole string of shows that are like of this era. We're seeing that general pacing is very different on these shows than what we come to have now. So just like now, like when we talk about like modern kids' attention spans are so different, like even we grew up in a faster paced, situation for television than what we're seeing then.
Not for nothing, but like when our parents were younger, they played with hoops, wooden hoops and sticks.
Oh, how old do you think our parents are?
I know how old my mother is.
Oh, look, I'm
Happy
spinning a
Mother's
hoop with
Day.
the stick.
Remember when they would just hit the tin can with the
My
stick?
mother, always talks about fucking playing kick the can with the kids on the road. So, kinda.
Well, anyways, with these shows, I feel like it's just a different way that television was presented. So it's like, I don't want to say that this is a boring show. This is kind of par for the course when you look at like,
yeah, it's just of its time.
they're
yeah.
very dialogue heavy. There's not a lot of action happening. It's it's here you are, long conversation. Now we're here, long conversation. Now we're here, long conversation. It's just a lot of dialogue, and it's just a very different way than what we're used to now, where we're seeing a lot more action and things, and very dense episodes where, we've gone over shows where it'll be a shorter episode than this, and it takes me twice as long to go over my notes because it's just, there's too much happening that you can't skip a detail. Where here it's all just very straightforward, and they're telling stories by talking. That's basically what you're getting.
To piggyback off that, when I was younger and this would come on TV Land, it was to the point that I didn't realize this was a sitcom, and I thought this was a serious show, and I would turn it off. That's how unfunny it was to young me.
Like it was like a newsroom drama.
Well, like MASH. MASH falls into, I feel like, the same sort of category.
I feel like MASH, though, as a kid, and I totally get what you're saying, Ferg, but I feel like MASH, the theme song, made you feel like it was a drama.
If you could get past that theme song, MASH is fine.
Well, it's funny. We've covered MASH. Go back and listen to that. I never really watched MASH at all until I was an adult.
Because of the theme song, right?
Because I couldn't get past the theme. I thought it was a very different show. That theme, I think turned the show is obviously a juggernaut in its time, but for newer generations, I think the theme was so just drab that it just kept you from there's nothing to indicate to me that this is going to be a funny show. It looks like a depressing war drama.
It's been a while. I'm sure I mentioned it on the episode, but I love the board meeting. Be like, we've got this funny show about Korean War. Be like, okay, what's a theme song called? Suicide is painless. Sold. Hilarious. Keep going. Take my money.
I think I told it on that episode, so you can go back and listen to it. But I remember singing that in karaoke, and I believe Joe was there.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, go back and listen to that episode and have Gordo tell you the same thing he just told you now.
Yeah.
Also, isn't the last beat of the last episode of MASH where those characters you loved, they died in a plane crash? That's not funny. Nobody wants that. It's fucking terrifying.
So anyways, so as they're talking about the situation with the lease and stuff, they go to open the shades and you see Rhoda just outside cleaning the window with a sponge.
Freezing to death because it's a Minneapolis winter. It's
snowing out and you're cleaning the windows with just what looked like a dry sponge in a bucket.
How would you clean it?
Phyllis, first, not while it's actively snowing out.
Yeah, I'd probably wait until spring.
And maybe with soap. But Phyllis obviously hates her fucking guts. She's like, oh, that dumb, awful girl. Pay no attention to her. She's...
Dumb, awful girl is aggressive.
I feel like Phyllis's husband checked out Rhoda's ass once and she caught him, and then she just hates her ever since.
Maybe that's it. I mean, we have an attractive woman living upstairs and she's married. Maybe there's a little bit of jealousy or something or worry.
That is true.
Phyllis is a very strange character, though. Sometimes I don't even think she likes Mary, and that's best friend.
Her and Phyllis.
Yeah, it's like she obviously hates Rhoda, but then sometimes she's catty towards Mary, and I'm like,
well, that was my thing with. That's why I said earlier.
She's just not nice. Yeah,
Phyllis to me, this scene, she's fine, but I think every scene after this, we just see her acting in a certain way where it was just off-putting to me, and it put a bad taste in my mouth towards her character.
And Phyllis eventually works with Mary, right?
Don't know.
Jeez, I don't remember.
That might be true.
Yeah, because I don't remember her being a friend. I remember her in the newsroom.
I think you could be correct, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But in any event, there's right around here is where her and her daughter leave. And then right after they leave, Mary, to let Rhoda in, slides the window open. It was interesting because you would think with those big windows, there would be a glass door somewhere over there, but instead it's just windows that open from the floor up.
They're giant windows. Again, this apartment makes no fucking sense architecturally.
Can you imagine how easy it would be to flood your apartment with a window that cracks from the very bottom like that if it's not
not a good idea. I mean, I guess if you're 3 floors up.
Yeah, she's on the top level. She's at the attic apartment, right?
But it's still a porch though, so if you're getting snow that melts.
Is she the top level? I just assumed she was on the bottom.
Yeah, she's the 3rd floor.
So how do you do the sunken?
Again, it makes no sense. The architecture of this apartment makes no sense at all.
And how is she just outside on the 3rd floor? I've
been told Mike Brady designed this house.
Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, so now I'm extra confused by this whole thing. She lets Rhoda in.
This is also a real house, by the way. There's like this house exists, like the Full House house. You can go see it.
Oh.
Oh, all right.
And like the Full House house, it doesn't like there's no like actual attic that people could live in, just like the Full House house. Like the Jesse and Rebecca apartment couldn't ever be a thing. I went to the Full House house.
Are you
and I was
telling
like,
me there's no alcove, Joe? 'Cause I can't live with that.
alcove may be there, but I saw that house in person and there is no apartment for Jesse, Rebecca, Nikki, and Alex. There's no way.
So the two start talking, and Rhoda, pretty aggressive right out the box.
With a very aggressive New York accent, too.
Yeah. And she's like, hey, get out of my apartment. And she's like, hold on. She's like, Phyllis will be back in a few and we can figure this out. She's like, I don't want to talk to her. And like, she's like, and there's no discussion here. This is my apartment. Why would I be out in the snow washing windows for your apartment? She's like, also, I spent an entire month's salary on brand new carpeting. For you? No. She's like, I never saw you before. That's for me.
I'm watching this and I'm just screaming at my phone. What's the lease say, bitch? What does the lease say right now? You don't live here.
Right now, the lease is a forged document, so I don't know if we can.
You don't know that.
Lease.
Also, very 70s to be like, see these beautiful hardwood floors? Like, yeah, but like, let's put some shag carpeting over them. But like, why would you do that? It's a terrible idea.
And then Phyllis walks back in, and then we find like the owner's out of town for a few days, which is a weird time to show an apartment and have all this stuff is very awkward.
Yeah, I don't know what Phyllis is. Is she the super?
I don't know what pull she has in this place, but
I assume she was just the wife of the owner. Like I thought the owner was probably her husband.
The way she mentions the owner's out of town, though, I feel like she doesn't say like her friend Phyllis's husband.
yeah.
She's just meeting the little girl, though. Maybe she hasn't met the husband.
Do you think her husband is Bernie?
Bernie and Phil.
I had a nightmare, Dr. Phil. Everybody's telling me no.
That's a deep one.
Sorry.
So now Mary's telling Phyllis, like, I can't take this apartment. She just spent a whole month's salary on new carpeting. Phil's like, that's old carpeting. It comes with the apartment. It's like, you lied to me? You betcha. Like, okay, girls, you want me to tell you the truth? I'm going to tell you the truth. This is going to be my apartment. And, so like, she's playing a very like caricature version. I feel like the Rhoda character needs to settle down a little bit. She's very like, I'm from New York and this is mine. Get out of here.
She needs to be reverse Flanderized.
Yeah.
There's also a crazy Rhoda line later, too, when she's like, look, you know why I ended up in Minneapolis? Because I couldn't find an apartment in New York. And that's why I'm here. It's like, so I couldn't find an apartment in a city 3 times bigger than this. So I moved halfway across the country and found an apartment. And I'm not giving it up. What the fuck logic is that?
She already has an apartment, though. I don't
Yeah.
know why it's...
Well, if it's better, I understand. Like, she might have been waiting for that apartment to clear. Like, she might have, like, sometimes it's like, hey, I'll move up here, but if that other apartment ever opens up, let me know. I'll move down.
Yeah, but it's the point that Mary doesn't sleep there that night because they're arguing where Rhoda can just go back to her apartment.
Well, here's where it's confusing, right? The argument's like, well, Mary needs this apartment more than you do. Well, if Rhoda moves into that apartment, Rhoda's apartment opens up. So
Yeah.
It's not like there's no apartment left. If Rhoda moves, Mary can just take that unit. Yeah, it's like, it's not like a real issue that if Mary gets this apartment, then it's that or nothing. She has nowhere to stay. She would be able to take the vacated apartment Rhoda left.
And it's not like Rhoda's in like the basement with like rats and like.
Yeah, it's in the same house.
I would prefer that, though, if Rhoda was like, the rats in my basement are as big as fucking ovens. You'd be like, okay, well, I understand you having a weird push to try to get out of there. They never give her a reason for like why she wants to leave her apartment.
No.
I mean, if she was like the big bay windows, you'd be like, okay, like they don't give her anything though.
And then this is when Phyllis is trying to explain, like, Mary's gone through a lot and wants to tell Rhoda all about like Mary's personal situation with the relationship. And Mary's trying to stop her. She's like, no, like, let's not get into that. And she's like, she had a beautiful romance that blew up in her face. She's like, it didn't blow up. I made a decision. Like, can we not talk about this? And like for 2 years, she was, through his internship and she was like helping him like get through medical school and all this. And then after 2 years, what happens? He says he needs more time. And it's like, it's funny. First off, Phyllis is like airing out all dirty business, but it's to give us the exposition, right? So we know what's going on. But also, I'm thinking in this moment, the whole like rushing, I was like, 2 years? Like, she's making a huge deal because he won't marry her after 2 years? It's not that crazy of a time.
Different times, man.
Different times, yeah.
I mean, she's 30. If you're 30 in 1970 and
Sure.
not married after being in a committed relationship, it's just such a different, yeah.
Biological clock is ticking.
Yeah. But like, how about 4 years? And even 4 years, like under normal circumstances now would be more than like, fine. But it's to base this whole thing on, oh, she's so strong because she left her 2-year relationship because he didn't propose yet. I'm like, 2 years is really like, no, it's just not that long.
My wife and I were together for like 8 years or 9 years before we got married. Like, it's just such a different world.
Yeah.
It should have been that she supported him through like medical school, and then he dumped her after he graduated.
Tell us the story that they've been together since high school. And he was like, wait, I got to get through school. And like, I waited 2 more years after blah, blah, blah. And we've been together but like, I don't know. It's just something about that like took me out of it a little bit because it didn't make the story like sympathizing enough for that. Oh, after 2 years, he didn't propose fresh out of school. Like, it's like, well, maybe he needs to settle in a little bit more.
It's not you're not supposed to focus on the time. You're supposed to focus on that she was his ride or die, and he didn't feel the same way. And
right, but I don't think they told the story well enough for me to accept that story.
I felt like he needed one more piece, like, and then he met a nurse. Like, he needs something like that, right? Where like he left me when he was higher elevation.
Well, I'll tell you I mean, obviously, as the episode evolves, we'll get more into it, but I feel like they did a really weird job explaining the dynamic of Mary and Bill's relationship anyways.
Yeah, I'm confused. When he shows up later, we'll get into it then, but it really confused me because they were like fine at first.
He didn't want to commit, and then she leaves him, and then she finds out he's going to be in town, and she's like excited, and
she's unbuttoning her shirt.
Yeah, it's again, we'll talk about it, but it was just like, I'm trying to track where these two feel about each other, and like, it's not adding up to me at any point.
Bill just wants to fuck.
So Rhoda hears this whole story, and she's like, compared to my life, that's a Walt Disney movie. So she's like, if you guys will kindly clear out, I'm going to go back to washing my windows. And then it's like, all right, Mary, you can stay downstairs with us tonight. So.
Does that infuriate? Why'd she get her way?
Yeah, Mary should be like, no, this is my apartment. I'm legally signed onto it, apparently. I did not know.
So now no one's in this apartment for the night because Rhoda still doesn't live in this apartment. So now it's going to be vacated for the night as Rhoda washes the windows outside.
I will say this, though. Part of me was like, why would you go sleep on a couch when you have your own house? And then you see Mary's bed. You're like, oh, you sleep on a couch. Never mind. Yeah, that's a terrible way to sleep either way.
That and Mary's stuff ain't there yet anyway. It gets, I think, addressed in the next scene. Like her stuff's all getting delivered, but just weird. At this point, I hate Rhoda, and I never thought I'd say that.
Well, at this point, it is weird because he's being very forceful.
She's not fun in this episode, yeah.
But she has no connection to Mary yet. In fairness, if you look from Rhoda's perspective, she was expecting to get this apartment when it cleared up. It did clear up. Her, like, co-inhabitant of her apartment building who doesn't like her is forcing her friend into the apartment so she can't have it. She doesn't know Mary from a hole in the wall. She felt like it was like her right to get this apartment next. So when she sees this woman coming in and Phyllis, who she doesn't like, is the one bringing her in, she's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Get out of here. Like this, I've been waiting for this apartment.
She still has no claim to it. Like yet. Like nothing's signed.
We don't know what conversation she had with the owner, but she feels she has claim to it.
I will also say this. I don't know what my algorithm is doing lately, but I keep getting videos of people who are like, we're apartment busters. It's like they go to apartments, the people who are squatting, they're like, landlord called us, get your shit and get out of here. And they're like roughhouse people out of apartments they don't live in. I have no idea why this is something they're pitching to me, but
if this was 20 years ago, that'd be an A&E show. It would come after Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
I would watch all of that.
But yeah, this is like a situation when you look through it, I can see Mary's perspective. I can see Rhoda's perspective. Phyllis is just like a disruptor, right? Even if she's trying to help her friend, but it's more like for spite through Rhoda. And after Phyllis leaves, I kind of like the dialogue real quick between Rhoda and Mary to close out the scene where, Rhoda's kind of like, chest out at Mary, kind of trying to, be the strong hand. And Mary's like, oh, you think I'm some kind of pushover, don't you? Well, you're going to be real surprised because if you push me, then I just might have to push back. Like, you can't carry that off. He goes, I know. Just that classic.
That's a perfect first commercial break, though. Like that, I thought that was written and timed very well.
There's a commercial break later in this episode where I thought it was the end of the episode because commercial breaks on a freeze frame.
That's not a good. Yeah, that's a poor choice for sure.
Some of that sometimes happens for like time jump purposes. So like sometimes when you see it into the same scene, it's like it's to get through the scene. It's to be able to cut dialogue out and just like, all right, assume some stuff happened and now we're here.
Yeah, just think it's tomorrow.
Mary exits. We see the exterior of a tall building in the city. It takes us to the, inside of it. We find out that it's the office of WJMTV News. And we see Mary walking in and she has a job interview. So she's trying to talk to people, but everyone's like walking around with their heads down and she can't get anyone to talk to her until she finally grabs the attention of Murray, who's sitting at the desk and he's typing something. And she's like, hey, I'm looking for Mr. Grant about a secretarial job. It's like, oh, it's been filled. While that conversation's happening, Mr. Grant happens to be nearby and walks over. And it's like, since this young lady came to see Mr. Grant, why don't you let Mr. Grant handle it? He brings her into the office.
Also, a character named Marty Slaughter. What a fucking great name that is.
He should be
Slaughter!
playing bass. He should be playing bass in like a band.
Yeah, he definitely was like in a band with Vinnie Vincent at one point.
Now, he's the one, he went on to do Love Boat, correct?
Was he in Love Boat? No, I know he's... God, what have I seen him in?
He was Captain Steubing.
Oh, he's Captain Steubing? It was him who was Captain Steubing? Okay.
Yeah, he did 250 episodes of Love Boat after this.
That's a show I haven't ever seen.
Love Boat is one of those weird ones. I remember seeing it a little bit as a kid. Same thing with Fantasy Island.
I don't remember much about it. It was very guest-driven, wasn't it? Love Boat?
Same thing with Fantasy Island. It was like, and this week it's going to be this person on the island or this person on the boat. Yeah. I think, though, because those were hour dramas, they didn't play as much in reruns as kids, right? Because like they were like, we could play 2 episodes of Gilligan's Island instead of 1 episode of
The Love Boat.
Mary and Mr. Grant step into his office and she goes, oh, do you have any idea when Mr. Grant will be back? He's like, I'm Mr. Grant. Like, oh, you're back. And then immediately he's like, hey, do you want to have a drink? I wouldn't mind some company. Do you want one? She's like, oh, no, thanks. He's like, I said I wouldn't mind some company. He's like, all right, I'll have a Brandy Alexander. And then he like puts the bottle down. I didn't quite get what the joke was here. He kind of puts the bottle down and is like, never mind.
A Brandy Alexander is just like a fancy like dessert drink. It's like cream of cacao and nutmeg and shit. So I'm sure he was just
so was the idea that he just, I assume this guy drinks scotch because every guy in this era just drinks scotch.
Yeah, and then also when he pulls the coffee out, he pours scotch in his coffee. So like he's still drinking. He just doesn't want to deal with the like, she has a drink order, not just like wants a shot.
Making a drink, yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. So now they're talking, finds out that the job's been filled. He's like, but there is another job. I figured I'd hire a man for it, but we can talk about it. And then he's asking her all these questions. They're doing like a bit where he'll ask a question, and then if he'll fire another question at her, and if she's uncomfortable with the question, she'll answer the question before it. So it's throwing things off, and he's like getting confused by it.
He's the heart of this show, though. Ed Asner is so fucking great in this.
He, to me, is the shining light of this episode specifically. Ed Asner makes the episode. I think any comedic moment in this episode, every one of them are tied to him.
His timing, especially in the last scenes, is just so fucking spot on.
This is great because we're using the job interview, even with the questions she's uncomfortable about, to give us a ton of exposition, right? So we're finding out she's 30 years old, like her relationship status, all this stuff, never been married, Presbyterian. It's all these like all these things we're getting to learn a lot about her in rapid pace here in a way that's like natural because she's in a job interview.
Also, I would like to say I did look up the average salary because you can look up any salaries now, right? Like I looked up specifically for a newsroom now how much an associate producer makes versus a secretary at a newsroom. And it is a $30,000 yearly difference on average.
Wow.
So there's some odd math going on here with Asner.
He just doesn't want to pay.
Well, it's like reverse math. So like the associate producer makes less than the secretary, but the producer makes less than the associate producer. So it's like the higher up you are, the less money you make. It's for the benefit of the title.
Also, if you've seen this show before, Slaughter, you think is the secretary, right? Like if you don't know the show, when you come in, he's like, job's filled, and he's typing at a desk out front. Yeah. Did anybody else think like, oh, he's the secretary and he's like, I got this job?
I just thought he was typing the news.
I thought he got the secretary job. That's what I thought
too, yeah.
He's like, job's filled as he's like typing away. So
right,
I was
like that's the way it
looks,
yeah. And this sort of goes into like they use this joke in Murphy Brown, right? Where like there was a new secretary at the front desk every episode.
My recollection of Murphy Brown, I've probably seen very little, if any, of that show.
My recollection of Murphy Brown is recognizing the name of the show, Murphy Brown.
I would have bet money you were gonna make a poop joke. So good on you.
That's because he didn't think of it. That wasn't because he was above it.
I am above it. I would never make poop humor.
When he did ask her about her religion, she like stood up. She's like, that's against the law. You can't ask me that question. He's like, want to call a cop?
I like that line.
And then like, would it be violating your civil
How
rights?
thrown would you be though? Like getting a job interview, someone's like, "What's your religion?" I'd be like, "What?" Like I wouldn't know how to answer that.
Pastafarian.
Well, it is a different time. Still not okay to ask in an interview, but I think that was
No.
a stronger part of people's identities in 1970 than it was today. It's tough to describe the scene because of the way that the questions are being asked out of sequence from when she's answering them. But it's very confusing to Mr. Grant, who's trying to like garner information about her. And then anytime she's, not sure how to answer something, she goes back and forth. Like he asks her if she's married and she doesn't know how to answer it. And then he asks if she can type. And then he goes, well, that's a really tough question. He's like, it's not a tough question. Can you type or can you not type? But she's still referring back to that thing.
I do love that response. Like that's an easy question to answer.
It's so difficult to explain, but I think it was very effective in real time and it was good dialogue. I thought the writing was really strong there.
The writing was and the acting was. So, like, even though it sounds confusing the way that we're presenting it, it really wasn't.
Yeah, there's no way for me to do it justice without reading the entire transcript, which I don't think is the way to approach it, but I thought it was well done.
I would say think of who's on first if it wasn't annoying.
By the way, Mary can type 64 words per minute. That's pretty good considering the average now is 40 words per minute.
I wish I remembered to do it. Like you can do like an online typing test. And I mean, most of us are on computers all day long, right? So like, I wonder how we are as an average right now.
Mine's like 1 million words per minute. They're just not going to be your human words.
Yeah, if you count how many times you hit space, delete, space, delete, then I am a fucking master.
Well, that'd be probably a number that's skewed over time too, because it's funny when we were like fresh out of high school was still the height of like, we go home and we talk to each other on our computers.
Yeah.
So like we didn't have smartphones yet. So we weren't typing on our phones all the time. We were going home and typing on the computer. So despite the fact that we were in school and we were like I wonder if kids still even have to do typing class because kids are born with tablets.
I don't know.
Laptops. So like they learn how to type so naturally by always having keyboards in front of them. But like, I think I learned how to type better just from going home and using the internet and talking to you guys than I did from using it for, practical application in school.
Must be even harder with a typewriter because with a typewriter the buttons kind of like fight you when you're pushing them in.
Yeah, you have.
And
to
you don't have a giant screen to like see what you're doing.
I had to look at my actual computer, but yeah, Gertie Farish, right? That's the thing that taught us like where your hands stand.
Did you guys have typewriters like growing up? Like I remember like being in elementary school and I did a few reports with a typewriter.
I did. I think I had an electronic typewriter. I don't think I had like old school.
No, I had like an old as fuck typewriter we used to have in the house, and like I did a few reports on it. Like really at that changing of the guard, like you know what I mean? Like we didn't all have home computers when we were little kids.
Yep.
It is we're a really interesting generation. So
yeah, we're like right in the middle of things
right
changing.
On the cusp.
Yeah, I do remember pulling out the electronic typewriter and having to type.
There's nothing worse than making an error on a typewriter because then you had to like go back and go back and hit it with the whiteout and backspace.
One thing I remember is when we got our first computer, I think it was my grandfather who worked at a school was like, hey, they by accident bought a bunch of yellow paper and they can't use it. So here's like 17 cases of yellow paper. So up through high school, I would like bring in school like reports, be like, this is the paper we have at the house. And there's so much of it. I'm sorry. Like, this is just what I have.
F.
Failed. I did okay. I graduated. Just skirted by, but I made it.
As the interview's kind of concluding, he goes, you know what? You've got spunk. Like, well, yes, I hate spunk. He's like, I'll tell you what, we'll try you for a couple of weeks, see if it works out. If I don't like you, I'll fire you. All right. And if you don't like me, I'll fire you.
I do love that as like an intro to his character.
I don't understand why he hired her. Nothing went well in the interview. Nothing.
I think we're to believe he's drunk. And he goes on gut instinct.
I would have added just one extra step that he hates the secretary that was hired or something like that. And that's why he's bringing her in. Like,
I'll say this. I don't want to give it away. When we see him later on, everything that's happening would make you believe that he's hiring her. This hire is based on she's pretty and stuff like that. But I like the way that it's spun. But yes, at this point, it is a bit confusing.
he didn't even ask her qualifications or anything.
Yeah, there's no job opening. He's like, I kind of have another job. Doesn't really explain what it is to her, what she has to do. Has nothing for her to do after he gives it to her, as we find out. So he's just like, she just sits there with nothing to do. So it's like, yeah, why did she get this job?
He liked her bum. I was making a joke. That is a joke from later. Never
I was
mind.
going to say, some of this will come back later.
I wasn't even trying to jump ahead.
I will say I spent like 25 minutes today trying to find the etymology of when they first started calling bums cabooses, and there's no definitive. It's like,
Depends. When were trains invented? Because that's probably when.
well, a caboose actually, like, this is how long it goes. Like, they were like caboose they used as a term that was like part of what was like what held up your like bustle in the back. So like caboose was actually like a slang term on the train. So like it goes like in circles. You can just follow different rabbit holes of like what was first at that point. So it's not just like the obvious of like, well, the back of the train is the bum. They called that what held up like the train of a dress back then too. So it's hard to find like a definitive answer as to like when people started being like, I call a bum a caboose. It's like there's no easy answer to find.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
This is what I spent like the 8 minutes today I didn't have in between work calls. I was like trying to find etymology of bums and cabooses.
Yeah, this is when we find out a little bit about the pay scale we're talking about. So she's being offered the position of associate producer, which pays $10 less a week than the secretary job. If she wants to take an additional $5 off of that, she can become an actual producer.
Which, to be fair, smarter move. You move to another place, right? Like you have the
title.
title now on your resume.
$5 is a lot of money back then.
Also, $10 a week, though, if you're like, I don't know, I might take a title change if I was not planning on being there forever. It's not your career, right? Like, you're not going to stay. I'm staying at WJTV, whatever news, forever.
I'll say this, a nice little acting moment. I don't know if you caught it, but just like a good acting choice by Mary is when he tells her, like, it's going to pay $10 less a week. You could see her look up real quick and kind of do the math in her head to see, like, can I pay my bills, like, on that salary? Like, it was just a nice little choice. Like, if you catch it, it was subtle, but I thought it was really well done.
I mean, I'm usually pretty good at doing the math on like money then versus money now. So that'd be what, $520 a week, probably $5,000. It's probably a decent amount of money.
She gets the job. We find out, she can start tomorrow. She exits. Next scene, we're back at the apartment. It's nighttime. Phyllis and her daughter are like moving stuff into the apartment now. There's a knock at the door. Mary's like, oh, my key doesn't work. It's like, oh, I had to change the locks to keep that dumb, awful Rhoda out. She's so like, she really fucking hates her guts. And again, I don't know how Phyllis was able to have the locks changed for an apartment that's not hers and a house she doesn't own.
That's why I think that she must be the super.
She's got to be.
Yeah.
Why would she have access to the lease information to sign for
Right,
her?
like she's got to be like part of this organization.
There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense because also, how did Rhoda have access to this apartment? She had keys too.
Also, why are people so mad that they don't like Bess's fucking design of furniture? Like, that's a weird thing to throw into this for no reason.
What happened?
Because they're like, she's like, well, this whole scene is like, you don't like the furniture? Bess
Oh.
set it all up. But it's like,
It was the setup, yeah.
why do we care? Because later on they bring it up again. They were like, you moved the house around. You didn't like what Bess designed? Like, she's an 8-year-old. We're not going to keep the furniture the way she decided.
Well, this is what I didn't like. This is when like Phyllis her character was turned off for me a bit because Mary walks in. She's so excited that she's got the job. She's trying to tell Phyllis all about it, and Phyllis keeps cutting her off. And then to like further ruin Mary's moment of being excited about the job, it's like, oh, and I have some shattering news. It's like, but that can wait. Tell me about the job. It's like, wait, shattering. Wait, what? What's shattering? Like, oh, well, I got a long distance call today and I was on the phone for 45 minutes. And guess what? Bess finally blurts out, Bill's coming. She was on the phone with him for 45 minutes.
With her friend's ex-boyfriend?
The joke should have been she gives her the bill. Long distance for 45 minutes, but
Yeah. By the way, that'll be $750. Yeah. It's also mean the way that Phyllis treats Bess. We're like, you don't seem like a very nice mom. Like, she's picking up on the, like, that was mother's news. Like, oh, this is dark. This is getting weird.
Yeah, both characters are a conundrum to me. I don't understand them.
But so now we find out that, like, Bill's coming.
Well, Bill, who you left and went across the country to get away from, like.
But we don't even, where did she originally live? Was that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I couldn't pick that up. We know that Rhoda's from New York, but they say that Mary moved, but I don't think we hear where she moves from.
Yeah, I'm not under the impression that it was, like, super far.
It was somewhere, like, similar, right? Because she wasn't like, ooh, it's so cold here. They would have made that, like, a character
Yeah,
trope,
she was
right?
probably already Midwest.
She came from Los Angeles, according to this.
That is horseshit. You do not come from Los Angeles to Minneapolis winter and not at least make one. Like, that seems like such a weird sitcom thing to not be like, sure is cold.
Oh, wait. Never mind. So I just, I searched where did Mary Tyler Moore move from, not thinking that's her actual name. Disregard.
Yeah.
We're going to guess that they were in Wisconsin and they were neighbors with the Cunninghams.
She moves from somewhere in Minnesota. It says a small fictional town called Roseburg, Minnesota, where she moved to Minneapolis.
So it's like the big city for her, yeah.
That's lame.
Yeah.
The same state.
But no, that makes sense though, right? Like imagine, you live in Western Mass and you move to Boston, right? Like it's to move to the big city, even though it's only an hour and a half away.
Something's up with that kid. I think that kid's a serial killer.
Looks like it. Like the kid from The Shining.
I didn't really get any vibes from this kid like you guys did. Like, I
did not
That's
like
the
the
thing.
kid.
She doesn't give any vibes. She just sits there with a cold, blank, dead eyes and just sitting there.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that. I just thought it was more like she was just like plug and play. We need a kid.
And you have to like tiptoe around her. Like, oh, don't you like the way she designed your apartment? Tell her you like the apartment.
Well, maybe she found out that Mary was from Wisconsin. She moved to Wisconsin, met a friend named Jeff Dahmer, and things got a little weird 20 years later.
I believe it.
She was drilling holes in people's heads.
I mean, that wouldn't shock me.
Well, so
Bessery Dahmer.
anyways, with this news of of Bill showing up, that scene kind of ends. Following day, we see Mary's making her bed on the pullout couch when the door opens and enters Rhoda with some guy.
Real quick, I don't want to go too far away from things, but like we've all slept on a pullout couch before.
Super uncomfortable.
It is like one night you're at somebody's house, family, whatever. Imagine sleeping every single night on a 1970 pull-out couch bed. Her back would be fucking broken. It's going to be such a hard way to live.
Well, when they were playing with the hoop and stick, they just survived.
I feel like the hay mattress from the hoop and stick days, Gordy, you're talking about that are, I think, tombstone level would probably be more comfortable than this bed.
It's one of those I never realized until we were talking about earlier, just the idea that that was her actual bed. I thought it was because she knew someone was coming that night.
Like you think she's making the bed for a guest.
Right. I didn't think of that as her bed. Yeah.
Is that her bed? Like she's still waiting for furniture.
Studio. Yeah.
So Phyllis changed the lock so Rhoda couldn't get in. And now Rhoda lied to the locksmith to change the locks again so she could get in. But now the locksmith is like, wait a minute, someone lives here? Like, he has integrity. So he's like, did I just break into someone's apartment for you? It's like, yes, you did.
I wonder what if I was to call a locksmith tomorrow, right? If I was like, hey, I want to change all my locks. What is the check and balance scenario there? Are they like, can I see your fucking mortgage? Like,
can you get into your apartment on your own right now?
Yeah, they're inside the apartment. I assume you just have to show a license.
Yeah, some proof. Yeah.
Something. Yeah, but your license might not show where you live if you live in an apartment, right? Like you may have moved. I had a cop once tell me when I had to show my ID for something. He was like, when you change apartments, you're supposed to get a sticker and put a new sticker on the back of your license or whatever that says where you live now. I was like, nobody fucking does that. It's insane. What are you talking about?
I like that this guy's like, whoa, I don't want to have anything to do with this. And she's like, you already did it. So no turning back now. And he's like, I want to see your license. This way, if anything happens here, I want to know who you are.
Which means there's no documentation at the office either when she called. She was just like, yeah, this is Jan. I live here. Change my locks. And he was like, all right, shit, why not?
So when she refuses to show her license, he's like, well, in that case, I'm going to memorize your face. And he just stares at her.
It's just, in fairness, though, it's like, That's their purpose, is to get people into their houses when they get locked. You're not going to get locked out of your house carrying all your credentials.
That's what I mean, though. It's weird. You're right. It's weird, right? Like, how do you prove?
But, okay, I could tell you exactly how you prove it. When he unlocks your house, you go get your stuff.
But it's too late at that point. She could just lock the door and call the cops or whatever, you know?
You can't lock the door on a locksmith, Joe.
Well, he has to re-unlock it. That takes some time.
But I'll tell you what, when you unlock it and there's a person inside living there who's like, what are you doing in my house? That's a pretty good indicator that the person shouldn't be there.
Unless she's a squatter.
I guess technically.
But then wouldn't the squatters had to call the locksmith to change the locks originally? And now we are having lockception?
Isn't that a Christopher Nolan movie?
Could be a different locksmith too that, Rhoda probably called a different one than Phyllis.
I mean, that would make sense.
That's changing the locks first, breaking in.
Yeah.
If Robin Hood Men in Tights taught me anything, it's not easy to find a locksmith when you need one.
I am pissed off. If you're not careful, you're going to be pissed on.
I have to rewatch that movie.
By rewatching.
You've lost your arms in the war.
I've seen
No,
that
that's
movie
a great set of
hundreds
breasts.
times.
That's a movie I believe Gordo's seen. That's like right in his
Yeah.
comedy wheelhouse.
This is the Mother's Day episode. My mother would watch that movie all the time. Same thing with the Princess Bride.
I believe both of those for
And
sure.
Blazing Saddles.
Yeah. Also that, yeah.
My mom loves the campfire scene.
Weird, Gordo. How did you turn out the way you've turned out? Who would have thunk?
So now this locksmith leaves, and now we have Rhoda and Mary together. And she's like, hey, I hear your doctor boyfriend's making a little house call tonight. Bess told me. Mary, I hope everything works out for you. I really do. Oh, thanks. Because if it does, that means you'll move out and I'll get this apartment.
That was funny.
It's funny, but again, this is the scene where she is like, I had to move all the way from New York to find an apartment. We were like, that is one of the biggest cities in the entire country. There were so many apartments.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Why are you so hell-bent on this one apartment in the building you have an apartment in already?
They needed to show her apartment. Like,
It needs to be like a
that
total
was the
shithole,
real
yeah.
fucking mistake they made. It needed to have like torn wallpaper, like cockroaches,
Rats.
a third of the size of this thing.
No, Rhoda needs a pagoda.
This is the first time we're actually seeing like chemistry between the two as far as like, oh, they might end up being friends. Because after Rhoda saying like, I left New York because I couldn't find an apartment, I'm not going to leave Minneapolis. It's when Mary's like, you know what? Like, in spite of everything, you're pretty hard to dislike. I'm having a hard time hating you too.
Based on what? They never had anything that would turn that around. That was
Yeah.
just for the sake of the joke.
I think I don't know, they like each other's vibes. they're vibing.
Just broke into her house.
Rhoda, again, like we've said, not trying to, be ahead of anything, but Rhoda becomes so much more likable. And
Right?
that this line makes sense later.
You guys are overlooking the true villain is Phyllis. Phyllis is the villain here.
And she's creating a super monster in Bess.
Who names that kid Bess? I mean, that was kind of straight from the get-go.
It's short for Bestchivist.
Again, it's Bess Reed John Dahmer. She's going to move a couple states over and do some real damage in the 80s.
Just saying, that's a cow. Fergus right, that's a cow name.
I like the idea that the next scene Bess comes in with a big bell on her. She keeps running away from the house. That's how I find her. Gunk, 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 gunk. Shut up, Bess. Shut up, Jesse. I don't care. It's always shut up, Jesse. We talk about this.
Next scene, Mary is at work and you see her sitting at her desk and she's like side by side with Mari who's like typing away. And she's just like sharpening a shit ton of pencils because she has nothing to do. When she's done, she's like looking around. She has nothing to do. So she just breaks one of the pencils and resharpens it.
I mean, I think anybody can relate to this, though. Like, the first day of a new job is always so fucking weird and nerve-wracking. Where, like, I don't know what to do or what, like, my expectations are. I want to make sure
You don't
I'm
have
busy.
friends yet.
You know what? This is funny. This is total dumb ignorance on my part. But I was like, oh shit, they had electric pencil sharpeners already?
No, I'm with you on that because my house now, when we moved in, just like the house I grew up in, you like opened the basement door, there was like a bolted to the wall.
Those crank ones?
Yeah. Like it's still, so I don't know how, I think every house came with them at some point in the 70s or 60s. So
I used to love taking like the shell off those ones, and then it just looked like a fucking torture device.
Yeah.
yeah,
two
you watch
grinding
the
things.
three things. I will say this though, custom pencils cost like nothing. So if anybody wants some S1E1 pencils, I will make some with some fun catchphrases.
That's Mama's pencil.
I mean, there it is. That's it right there.
Right to us.
The best, I don't want to say it's the best thing because I'll get in trouble later, but one of my favorite things ever is like, when you're weaning a child off of things where you're like, no, don't grab that. That's daddy's, whatever. There are so many things where I'm like, nope, that's mama's drink. And then I immediately stop and go, that's mama's drink. Like every fucking time, no matter what it is. I say it every fucking time. That's mama's phone.
First created in the 40s, the electric pencil sharpener.
Wow.
How many children were electrocuted by 1940s pencil sharpeners? Lick the prongs.
And if these things were already common in offices in the 50s and 60s, why in the 90s when we were in school did we have to walk up and like awkwardly sharpen our pencil like at the front of the classroom?
Businesses had money.
I don't know why you guys are surprised. It's not like super advanced technology.
No, but it seems like luxury technology. It's very easy to just sharpen a pencil with like those like little, not even the crank ones, but like the little ones you stick in the tip of your pencil and spin.
You know what the crank ones are better for though than the electric ones? Crayons.
I used to sharpen my eraser, so I had to point the eraser.
In case you had to stab a substitute for any reason.
Guess I had to erase them from the inside.
For big mistakes.
This is for Bess.
Mr. Grant walks out. He said, somebody get Ted Baxter in here. Mary's like, oh, I'll do it. It's like, no, he'll do it. When I say somebody, I mean him. And she's like, well, I need something to do. It's like, I'm too busy to find things to keep you busy. And then heads back into his office. And she's like, why did he hire me? And then Murray's like, maybe he was bombed. It's like, oh no, I mean it.
You get from here, like when we're going to talk later on about the Green Light or Cancel, like what makes the show work. Murray is one of the things that makes the show work. Where you're like, I want to see this dude's like one scene an episode where he just rips on.
At least here, he seems like a grounded, regular person. You know what I mean? In a cast of characters.
I always thought he was like the grumpy guy. The character I liked was Ted Baxter when I was little because he was just the funny, actual comedy relief on this boring show.
I had a weird moment after watching this where I was like, I went upstairs, I was talking to my wife, we're going to bed, and I was like, I never realized before, because I had watched this a lot as a kid, but not a lot as a teen. I was like, oh, Anchorman is just Mary Tyler
Ted
Moore
Baxter.
From Ted's perspective. My wife was like, yeah, that's why the dog is named Baxter. And I was like, what the fuck? I never thought of this. This movie's been out for so long. It blew my mind.
Well, you know what? This is actually right when we first meet Ted Baxter, too. But not just that. Obviously, you could tell Anchorman was drawn from this character a lot. And to be honest, another news show, I feel like Phil Hartman probably took a lot from this character for his character
for
in News Radio.
Radio, yeah.
1,000%, yeah.
I think there's a lot of pulls from Ted Baxter if you look back and watch Phil in News Radio.
Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor, goddamn.
That's just always been the joke is that they're handsome, but they're aloof.
They're stupid.
Yeah. And the workplace looks very similar to News Radio. Kind of.
Yeah, I feel like, except for the booth, it's similar, yeah.
Yeah. Although the booth is there, it's just in the back in Mary Tyler Moore.
Well, it's not a booth in Mary Tyler Moore, it's a studio.
Yeah, it's
like
studio.
you open the doors and you go into the...
I thought it was a radio show.
No, this is TV news. Hence why he has to have a makeup bib on. Why would he be doing his makeup to be on the radio news?
Dude, I do makeup before I go on every week.
Yeah, well, you have a face for radio.
Also, Gordo, like, doesn't work because you're on camera currently.
Yeah, and I look good.
Ted Baxter, as he's talking, he introduces himself. He's like, I'm Ted Baxter, the Anchorman. And then right there, like we said, the Anchorman comparison.
You're like, fuck.
In that one way that he delivered it, you're like, oh, okay.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
And then Mary's like, oh, and I'm Mary Richards. I'm the new... And then she doesn't finish her sentence yet. And he goes, wonderful. I've been telling Lou we need a new one.
I will say, too, I also did look up if we could get custom makeup bibs.
The shit you look up.
I'm always looking for merch opportunities for the show. Make some money here. I found somebody who makes them, but they're one-offs, and they're like $30
You're not going
a
to
piece.
make it for the show. You probably found some album where someone's wearing a makeup bib, and you're just going to, like, write attack on it and then mail it to 50 people.
I would like to say my last novelty was received by members of the band who were very happy to see it. So I'm just throwing
What
it
was
out there.
that? Your pill bottles?
They were not pill bottles. They were bags of pills. Thank you.
Bottles? What do you think? I'm a millionaire?
Come on.
Lou walks back in, and as he walks in, the phone rings. Mary picks it up. She's like, "Oh, Mr. Grant, it's Mrs. Grant. She's calling from the airport." He goes, "Oh yeah, she's going to her sister's for a month. Tell her I'll talk to her when she gets back."
It's a fun red herring though, because you get the other side of this later on,
Yes, you
Yeah.
do. At this point, you think like he like fucking hates his wife.
which is like a classic character of that time, right? Also, imagine just being like, I'm gonna go visit family for a month. Like that's a wild.
Traveling was tough back then. Well, just different people's situations are different in general. So it's like, if her sister lives far away, like logistically, like, and you can't visit often, like if you have to fly out, it might make sense to just make one long trip of it.
My wife does that with her family. Maybe not a month, but it's like 2 weeks, at least 2.5 weeks at a time.
That's a different situation.
Yeah, that's out of the country. I mean, but maybe we don't know what his
Yeah,
wife's...
but it could be, even if her sister lives like in like San Diego, I mean, that could be just as long of a flight. You know what I mean? So
San Diego.
or close to. Pretty nice being in the center of America, I guess. Like you probably get to both coasts pretty quickly.
I mean, that was a big thing. Some bands did that in the 80s. They'd like move to like Missouri. They were touring all the time, but like it's easier to do tours. So you can just move. Like Descendants did that. They were like, we'll just move to the middle of the country so we're always on tour anyway.
I was thinking about that not long ago. I mean, me and Ferg just came back from Vegas, and thinking of like if you live on the West Coast, it's so easy to be like, I want to go to Hawaii, and it's like that flight is so much easier than if I want to go to Hawaii, and it's like 2 days of hell.
Or like Japan or Australia. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You eliminate so much of that travel.
Yep.
But then for us, we have like Europe. If we want to
Right. Like from here, if you want to go to like London, it's 4 hours, right? So yeah, it just depends.
So yeah, this is when Lou's asking Mari, like, "Hey, can you give me that list of words that Baxter mispronounced on last night's show?" And then when Murray gets up, he's like, "Hey, can you check that top one?" He's like, "Chicago?"
I'm kind of sad that we don't know how he mispronounced it.
Yeah, I know. I really wanted him to say like
Chicago. Like it's like a Native American word.
Chicago.
It should have been like one of those, like, he should have looked at the list and then put the paper in front of Ted's face and been like, "Ted, what's that word?" And then he goes like, "Chicago?" Like something like that.
I will say this though, that one line of like, he mispronounced Chicago makes you be like, I want to see more of this character.
Yep.
They don't use him a lot in this pilot, but they use him very well.
You could say he's the anchor of the show.
Ew.
That was good.
That was not bad. That was one of your better ones.
So all the guys exit, and now Mary's sitting alone at her desk, and her phone rings again. And she picks up, and it's her ex, Bill. And
Fuck Bill.
like she's having the one-way conversation, and you could tell though, like immediately as soon as she hears from him, she's very, you get that tone change. She's very excited.
Flutter, yeah.
Yeah, she's very smiley. So she's like, "Yeah, this is my new job. I'm the associate producer." It's like, "No, I can talk. Like, I'm not too busy." And then like, "How long are you going to be in town?" And then, invites him over for the night, and "Oh, it'll be good to see you." So it's weird. Like, so he's, again, it's, I maybe he always assumed he'd be able to stay there the night, but he made accommodations to head out there, right?
He's gonna have a rough night though in that bed.
They parted on terms bad enough for her to fucking leave their hometown and move and relocate her entire life, but not bad enough for him to call like, "Hey, I'm stopping by."
I feel like we didn't get enough backstory on the dynamic of their relationship.
I don't think it's a trope anymore, although I think it's probably still very relevant, but like that was always like, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm sure there's that a bit. She was like, "Oh, the doctor wants to come back." Like, that's who you marry. You marry a doctor or a lawyer.
But also things may not have been that bad. It could just be like, hey, we find out basically they were just in a different place of their relationship. She wanted marriage and he wasn't ready for that. So they split ways. So it may not have been a big fight. It might have just been like, "Hey, we don't want the same thing. I think it's time to break up." But like in this conversation, I don't feel like they're totally broken up. It's just, and then when we see them, I just have a really hard time like connecting those pieces right now.
Yeah, they don't give enough backstory on why they broke up or why Bill was important. It's more just like, oh, well, that's who she used to be dating, so we assume it's a big deal. But yeah, they probably could have given maybe one less minute to Bess and one more minute to the relationship of Bill to make the end of this episode be more, make more sense.
instead of it being like this veiled secret, the opening scene should have been Mary and Phyllis talking about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And be like, so what happened? And like, instead of making it like almost like she's secretive about it, doesn't want anyone to know, like let her confide in Phyllis so we can figure out a little bit of the dynamic of, other than like, could you believe he wouldn't marry her after 2 years? Because that's all we know. So she left.
Right, because the last scene is supposed to be like very impactful.
Elaborate a little more on the interview scene. Anything.
Not married, huh? Well, I was with a guy, and yeah, like you could have 10 seconds more and know more about the relationship.
Or their perfect opportunity later on when we get into it, but when, what's his name's drunk at our house.
I almost got married once. Yeah, like ... like
Yeah.
10 seconds of exposition, yeah.
We're back at her apartment. She's getting ready. Phyllis is there. And right away, Phyllis is like, you've changed the room around. You didn't like the way Bess arranged it? It's very strange. Oh, I just switched a couple things.
No, I don't like the way your child made my house.
No feng shui.
Bess is a fucking serial killer, and she's afraid of how she's going to react to this.
It's not Bess. It's Phyllis. Phyllis is the problem. Phyllis
Yeah,
is the one who's being
Phyllis
weird
is
about
afraid
it.
of Bess. That's what I'm saying.
I don't read it that. I don't like Phyllis.
I didn't like the way your daughter put these barrels of sulfuric acid in the corner to put little men in. Like, well, that's kind of her thing.
With all this Bess talk, there is a spin-off that features Phyllis and Bess.
Yeah, I would be intrigued to see what that relationship is like in that spinoff. I've never seen that. I've seen Lou Grant. I've seen Rhoda, but I've never seen the Phyllis Diller spinoff.
We may cover it one day. There may not be a Mary Tyler month, but we could probably we'll figure something out. Read the plot real quick. After the death of her husband, Lars, Phyllis moves with her daughter.
I am
Bess.
Lars.
I am
Sorry.
Lars. But after he dies, she moves with her daughter Bess in San Fran to start over.
Weird. There's a person named Lars from San Francisco who we all know.
Yeah.
Is this a better story where Lars Ulrich dies and she's like, I'm going to join Metallica and make these records not be terrible?
Don't piss off Metallica fans.
I'm a Metallica fan, but I think a lot of Metallica fans know that Lars.
Yeah,
is
look,
like
I was going to
the
say
coolest.
I'm a Metallica fan, but I think most Metallica fans are like, well, Lars is kind of a shithead, though.
Yeah.
I mentioned this maybe a month or two ago. Watch the video of him getting his foot rolled over in the studio. It's the
I love
funny
that.
video.
I've seen.
Watch any video of him in some kind of monster. And to be fair, nobody comes out looking good in that movie. Everybody looks terrible in that movie. But still, even he was like, yeah, I'm going to just sell a bunch of paintings. It's like, oh, how metal, dude. Cool. Thank you for showing up with this after your fucking therapy session.
I lost all faith in Metallica when they killed Napster back in the day.
And look, I get it. Like, as a musician, you want to be paid for your music or whatever. And like, what did that begat? That begat Spotify, where like you make no money on your music either.
I would say for the visual aesthetics of being Metallica, even if you are adamantly against everything that's going on with Napster, fight that behind the scenes. You don't want to be the face of it.
You don't do it publicly, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. You don't want to be the face of fuck Napster. It's your fan base that's using. Anyways, yeah, that's a whole conversation for another day. It's a weird tangent to have in the Mary Tyler Moore episode.
Do you like Mary Tyler Moore and Metallica?
So Phyllis is like, well, it is your apartment until you're married anyway.
Which also, is this like a singles apartment?
Well, she's under the assumption that, Bill's coming and they're going to reconcile and then she's moving off, which would really fuck up that lease agreement that
Yeah.
she signed for.
Yeah, big doctor's house.
And then she starts getting into like, I just want to see you married, Mary, because I'm married. I could not stand Phyllis in this episode.
Nope.
It's weird to make Cloris Leachman unlikable, but they do a good job of it here.
And as she's going over it, actually, there's a point where she starts grabbing Mary's hand as she's explaining like all the stuff about being married, because now as she's going over some of the perks, she starts remembering that there are unpleasant parts of being married too. And she's like, Phyllis, you're hurting my hand. So Phyllis leaves. Mary's at the window giving her, not at the mirror rather, I'm sorry. Mary's at the mirror. She's like giving herself like a final look before, Bill gets here. And she's like debating how many buttons to leave open because, she doesn't know how scandalous to be. By the way, the most open her shirt was still very conservative. It wasn't like she was showing anything. But then the doorbell rings and she like adds that one last button and goes coward to herself. It's like she's too afraid to show too much to her boyfriend of multiple years.
I did really like that line though, right? Like it gives you a good idea of the setting we're in.
She's a good girl.
Oh, Mary, your collarbone.
Oh, do I see clavicle?
So she goes to the door and opens it, and it's not Bill, it's Mr. Grant, and he's hammered.
And he's so fucking fun. This becomes the Ed Asner show for the rest of the episode.
This makes the entire episode for me. This scene.
They were great too because they set this up earlier when he was saying how it's a great neighborhood because that's all where his favorite bars are.
His favorite bars are in the area. His wife's away. It's all adding up. He walks in. He's like, "Oh, nice place." His drunk acting is phenomenal. He's doing a great job of playing hammered dude.
He never slips up in this. You feel like he really is this drunk character the entire time.
He's super drunk. I think he's riding the line in like a really great way in that not only is he coming off super drunk and being very funny, but he's not playing overly drunk to the point where it's annoying. Like he really like hit that like comedic line where it's like entertaining to watch.
Yeah, he really did.
And it doesn't give you the question too, like how did he find her apartment? How did he get up the stairs? Right?
Yep.
Like he's not so drunk that he wouldn't not remember. He's just like a bit too drunk.
And she's like, "Babe, so what are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, I was just in the neighborhood visiting one of my favorite spas."
Is it spas? I thought he said spots.
Spots.
I thought he said spas.
I thought he said spots. Like that was like the joke. Like just one of my favorite spots in the neighborhood.
I didn't question either of you. So.
I wrote all my notes down when I was in an Ed Asner state yesterday. So, it's hard to tell too if I'm right or wrong.
As he sits down, he goes, "My wife left today. She's going to be away for a whole month." And she's like, "Now I know why you're here." "Oh, yes, Miss Associate Producer. He said he'd find something for you to do. Certainly didn't get the job because of your personality." And he goes, "You got a great caboose." Like, there it is. You got your job because of your great caboose. And then he goes, "But not as great as my wife's. She's got the greatest caboose ever."
What a sweet, sweet man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not sweet.
It is sweet. He's saying his wife is the greatest caboose of all time.
He just said his secretary's got a great caboose too. It's not sweet.
Well,
His producer.
listen, he shouldn't tell her she has a great caboose.
Yeah, that's wrong.
It is objectively wrong, but where we think he's about to make a pass at her, and all the signs are pointing at, hey, he gives her the job. She doesn't even know what she's doing. She doesn't have any assignments. Now she's thinking, oh, this is why he gave me the job. He's showing up at my house drunk. He's talking about my ass. And then he goes, "My wife's got the greatest caboose ever." Like, it spins it in a way that was like, oh, thank God. Because I don't want this to be an awkward scene.
That is why she got the job. He just said it. He said, "You have a great caboose. That's why I
No,
hired
he
you."
just happened to notice the caboose while he was sitting down. Because now he's at caboose level because she's standing. And then he's saying, "She left today. She's going to be away for a whole month, and I miss her already. I miss her so much. I'm going to write her a letter and tell her, where's your typewriter?" And she's like standing in front of the typewriter so he won't see it.
This felt like a Dick Van Dyke Show scene, right? With like the physical comedy of like trying to hide the typewriter.
He's like, there's that little portable devil.
This also feels like he was just riffing.
I think it's great. And she's like, "Hey, there's a whole slew of typewriters down at the office. Like, wouldn't you be more comfortable there?" "Oh, no." And then the doorbell rings and she gets the door, and now it actually is her ex, Bill. Like, "Hey, how are you?" "I'm fine." And then you hear Lou off to the side. "How are you?" "I'm fine." "No, I'm not."
The gag of him writing the letter based off of the conversation they're having is such a fucking funny thing I never would have thought of.
Yeah.
It was funny, especially like when she realizes how to use that to her advantage.
To stop the letter, to end it.
She's like, "Oh, that's my boss." He's like, "Oh, some big news story here?" It's like, no, he's writing a letter to his wife. And then he's going, "I miss you more than..." And as he's doing that, she's like, "Oh, where did you get roses in the wintertime?" And he goes, "Roses in the winter. That's beautiful." She's all excited to get the roses from Bill. And she's like, "Oh, there's a card." He's like, No, you don't want to read that." She's like, No, I already got it. And she opens the card and it says, "Get well soon, Uncle Buddy. Love, Gloria and Milsky." "Oh, I got it from a patient down at the hospital." Like, at no point could you at least be smart enough to get the card out of there.
Right?
You just take the card out. But I'm glad because it makes him like an immediate shithead. Because he doesn't own up to it in a bad way where he's like, oh.
It made his super low effort move even more low effort.
I don't know. He's got to give a nose job for those flowers.
He's got to get another job, if you know what I mean.
Which also means he's a
Plastic surgeon.
rhinoplasty. So he's a plastic surgeon, which is a very high-paying part of medical.
Probably, especially at this time, too.
I mean, it was less common
That's what I mean.
at
Like,
that time, but
Maybe they should have been from LA, like I originally read when I read the wrong thing.
It's like, I can make you look younger than 30, Mary. Like, he'd have a line like that. You'd, like, really hate him.
and then as they're trying to talk about like how difficult it is being in separate towns and stuff, and what's going on with them, Bill's like, it's a little with him. Then she goes, and goes, all my love, Lou. And then you hear Lou going, all my love, Lou. All right, I'm finished. I'm going to go tie one on.
I wonder what time it is. Like, how I want to know, like, because it's wintertime, right? So, like, it's dark at 4:30. Like, I would love to know, like, how late is it? How drunk is he? How much longer are the bars open? Like, what's the rest of Lou's night look like?
Yeah. It's probably not as late as my brain wants to think it is. It's probably like 6, 7.
Yeah, like dinner time.
yeah.
So he leaves and he's like, oh, that's a weird boss you've got there. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of sweet. A man who misses his wife that much. Like, oh, couldn't wait, could you? Couldn't wait for what? To bring up marriage.
What
You're
a
like, oh,
dick.
so this guy's a giant piece of shit.
Yeah, like, you immediately are just like, fuck this, dude.
Yeah.
It's also forced. I don't like that line. It should
It
have.
was forced because, like, if she had said, oh, I kind of wish I had someone who missed me that much or like a husband like that. But all he said is, oh, it's kind of sweet that he misses his wife. There's a bunch of ways where she could have used that line to insinuate that, bring up marriage. And that's not what she did.
Yeah. And any idiot could have seen right through that.
Just they started off well with the flowers showing he's a piece of shit. They should have just kept showing his bad traits. Not just the forced marriage fight.
This
It
was like
just
we're running out of time. We waited too late to introduce him, and now we have to turn him into a complete.
Yeah, there's like a minute left of this episode. You have to like really make him a bad guy.
Cut out a couple of the best scenes. Don't hurt me, Bess.
This whole episode has just been like, fuck that little girl. She sucks. Why is she in this episode?
But when he says like, "Oh, couldn't wait to bring up marriage," it's like, "Well, I waited 2 years, Bill." That's not exactly. It's like, again, 2 years. Like, can we stop making it sound like 2 years is an eternity?
It's back then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like it.
Different times.
He didn't do the premaritals.
I think it was more common to get engaged earlier on, but even back then, 2 years wasn't wild to be dating before you got engaged.
Were any of your parents married after 28? Gordo for your mom?
Yeah. My mom married at 27, I want to say.
My parents were 20.
My parents were a little older than that, but nothing crazy. No, they were in the. Can't remember the year they got married. That makes it harder. I think it was like 4 years.
You're a great
before I was
son, by
born.
the way. No,
My parents fucking got divorced when I was 12. We don't celebrate their anniversary that often.
You're talking about their love
Happy
story.
anniversary, Mom and Dad. Like,
Give them a plant you stole from a hospital.
yeah, like what the like? What do we go to dinner every year? So, anyways, this creates obviously the conversation kind of spirals from there. It becomes like one of these like, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. Don't, like he's trying to like brush off the conversation. No need to talk about it. That's not why I'm here. It's like, well, why are you here?
Wow,
And then it was
chicka,
basically
wow,
like-
wow.
And then yeah, it was basically like, I'm here to fuck you. that's how I'm interpreting it.
Yep.
It's 6 o'clock. I've got stuff to do later. Let's.
In the most 1970 like way they can do this, it feels like, well, I haven't seen you in a month. It's funny that like these shows were really particular, like we can't show a fucking toilet bowl, but every dude could be uber horny and talk
Yeah.
about like,
Everyone's trying to fuck.
yeah,
Fuck horny Bill.
like don't show a girl wear pants, but it's okay to talk about her ass. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's
It's a
so
very different time.
it's a
you know?
weird time in television.
It's also strange. It's supposed to be so empowering, but her main character trait is like she wants to get married. That's a little like.
It is very like kind of takes the independence away from her a little bit in this episode.
But again, too, this is 50 years ago, right? So, like, them being like, we'll make her independent, they could only go so far.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, but I think there's ways around it. Like it could have been like she took herself out of a shitty relationship and not just like, I've been waiting so long for a proposal that I didn't get. Like, there could have been other outs. You know what I mean? Just,
Yeah.
I was tired of him doing this or that, or like he was, instead of making him a doctor, be like, he had no direction and I felt like I deserved better than this, or, you know, there's a lot of things they could have did.
He was always hitting me in the eye, like, make him violent.
I feel like that's too
Yeah, that's
hard
too
for
far.
this.
That's too far. Yeah, they're not going to go with abuse.
Not for a sitcom.
They didn't even want to make her divorced in the show. That was like another thing. They were worried that if they made her divorced, people's connection would be that she got divorced to Dick Van Dyke. Like that, like the shows would like kind of cross streams in people's
Better
heads.
not.
Yeah, I'm glad.
What if Bill walked in though and tripped right over the coffee table and just her breath fall?
Kind of weird he traveled that far for a booty call. He's like a doctor. I'm probably surrounded by some hot nurses. A weird move to go all the way there.
He tells her how he loves her, but when he says it, like he kind of like trips over it, and she's like, "I've never noticed this before." Like, what? That I love you? It's like, no, that like you don't say it well. Like,
I love you don't say it well. I think it's a great line reading from her too, right? Where like if someone was like, if you're like, I love you, and they went, I love you, you'd be like, oh fuck, we're done, right? That's over.
I love you!
You have to say it like Tim Curry.
Get on your knees and tell me you love me. We love you.
It wasn't me.
You were smooching
Little
with my
Mo with the
sister.
gimpy legs.
Gordo, Home Alone 2.
I love any time outside of Christmas we can mention Home Alone movies. I get so happy.
Been a while. This stuff doesn't stay in my head. Not a whole lot does, but
You can
It's
tell.
been a while for all of us.
Yeah,
bro, none of that sticks. It like
5 months.
Yeah, I was going to say it. Yeah, I watched it this year.
yeah, exactly.
Home Alone
I
2?
watch it every Christmas.
Yeah.
I watch Home Alone 1 every Christmas. I don't watch Home Alone 2.
We showed my niece the Home Alone movies.
I love both. I just, for some reason, only watch one.
Well, there's like 7 of them, but like 2 worth watching.
I've seen it before. It was
We
okay.
don't talk about the others.
Why do I need to go and revisit it?
You can say that about any movie.
I mean, the second one is the one that has the sound of a tool chest falling down the stairs, which is a moment we talk about a lot of this show.
Turtle doves.
Well, 2 turtle doves.
I don't think you've seen it.
I
don't
have
think-
seen it.
Nothing's coming to mind.
No.
Or the Undertaker. The scariest line of that whole fucking movie. Oh, yes, the Undertaker. I would love if Joe Pesci was just Paul Bearer in that scene.
I'll rewatch it at Christmas.
You'll watch it at Christmas. Yeah. Anyways,
This is what we need a Patreon for. Just having me watch these.
Do you want to pay us money for Gordo to watch movies?
yeah.
That he lies about saying he watched previously, so he can say he
I'm
has
sorry, I
watched them.
watched it when it first came out when I was 10. I don't have a sponge brain.
Look, usually I will take the hit on that one, but everybody on this call is quoting this movie right now, except for you.
The father. Sorry,
This
that's
scene-
the last one.
This scene kind of results in her saying goodbye to him. As this is happening, doorbell rings, Lou's back, because we need to like, it was a nice cut because it's getting heavy. She's playing the scene very emotional, and she's realizing like, you know, that she has to like break ties with this guy as much as she thought she had a future with him, as much as she thought she would be married to him one day. And even though she left, is now revisiting the situation, and I think was still kind of hadn't given up on the idea of the two of them, and now she's finally realizing there is no future with Bill. So the doorbell rings. Lou walks in. He's like, "You got a stamp?" While this is happening, there's also like Bill's exit after confirming, like, "Did you say like this? We're done. Goodbye." He leaves. As he's leaving, Mary hands him a stamp. He goes, "This is a Christmas seal." Like, "Oh, all right, here."
Also, Ed says goodbye and closes the door, which makes the scene even better.
All right.
She's like, you say goodbye, and Ed goes, goodbye, and slams the door in his face. You're like, fuck, Ed is the best.
She hands him a stamp. He's like, "All right, thanks." And he goes, "That guy, you didn't lose much, but he sure did." And then, like, he missed out on the best. This is still 1970, mind you. He missed out on the best wife.
He's still like, you'd be a great wife, kid.
This is her, though. Like, he missed out. I would have been such a good wife. You know what I mean? Like, even though
So
this whole show is
empowering.
centered around her independence, yeah. And then she's saying it's funny how you could see things differently in a couple weeks, and how, you know, she could have married him and what that life would have been like. And she's saying every time I get a basket of flowers, I'd wonder if he stole them from Uncle Buddy's sick bed. And then he goes, listen, if I were you, because he's holding the flowers, and he's like, if I were you, I'd find out what Uncle Buddy was sick with. That was my favorite
Great
line.
fucking line.
Yeah.
Favorite line.
Damn, I somehow missed that line.
It was the best because now it's like, what did he have? She's holding these flowers to her face.
Also, if you look, she laughs at that, and it is a genuine laugh, which is what makes you think that Asner is just riffing, because she puts her hand over her face to like laugh, and she comes back and does the scene like she should be laughing, but she's for sure really laughing.
I thought that line was genius. And then there's that kind of like flash to later where it's like you could tell there was a commercial break and now they're still in the room together. And he's like getting ready to leave. And it's like, hey, look, about that job, I'll find plenty for you to do tomorrow at the station if I show up. And then he leaves right as he's leaving. Rhoda's at the door when the door opens.
I feel bad here. Rhoda throws some serious shade at Lou Grant, which I feel like is not necessary.
Yeah, if that's Bill, you didn't lose much.
He's a big mucky muck at the TV news station in a major metropolitan area. I feel like that's a good catch.
She's like, oh, it didn't work out well, huh? Like, oh, what, did Bess tell you? No, I figured out for myself. And then she like shows her like, you've got this heating duct that goes all the way up to my apartment.
Goes all the way up to her apartment. Maybe Mary is downstairs.
Yeah, what floor is she on? They show the house, it's 3 floors, so...
Maybe it's second floor and Rhoda's third floor.
Maybe it's just too hot.
Also, this line could have also not been written properly and they might have not, we don't know. It doesn't totally matter what floor they're on. But that's how it ends, is basically Rhoda was listening in on the whole thing. It just kind of comes down to let her know. But I guess this is also establishing their friendship, right? Because she could have just like listened in on the conversation and went to bed with the info. But now I would assume if she's heading down, it's to like, hey, do you need to talk to someone, right?
And also lets her know, just so you know, I can hear shit. So, you know, be careful what you say. It's, if you're trying to be private, like that's like a nice thing to say too. Like, hey, I can hear everything you say. Like, just so you know.
This cuts to earlier, her and Phyllis. Man, that Rhoda is a cunt. It's like,
I wish she moved back to New York. How could she not find an apartment in all of New York City? What the fuck is wrong with that lady?
But that's how the episode ends. So I guess like it is ending with us establishing, okay, Lou's not that bad of a guy, although a drunk. Rhoda and her are establishing a friendship. Her and Bill are done. So we did tie a lot of loose ends here.
Yeah, agreed.
And then, that was the conclusion. We have like an end, like the end is just, we're hearing like an orchestra version of the theme song again with some clips of the show. And another thing I do want to mention is this was MTM Enterprises or MTM Productions was like what this show was, the production company for the show, which obviously MTM Mary Tyler Moore. And it was a production company that she started with her husband. And I think that was like the first time a woman like owned a television production company.
I thought that was Lucy.
What about Desi Lou Productions?
It was one of the first. I'm sorry, not the first. You have Desi Lou, you're correct. Yeah, no, in MTM, they ended up being a production company that they did shows like all during the 70s and 80s. And I think right now the Disney company owns all their stuff. So anything that was
of course
it makes sense why it's on Hulu, yeah.
Yeah, anything MTM produced is currently owned by Disney.
I imagine all the spinoffs probably fell under that umbrella.
Maybe.
So if you guys want, contact Disney and say, we want Lou Grant on your streaming services.
I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to drag on this episode much longer. Actually, episode took a lot longer than I thought it would. Well, we might as well jump into the green light or cancel. Again, Nick's not here, so his score will be represented on like a future social media post, so you will see it. In the event of a tie, that would be the tiebreaker. So to get into it, Joe, starting with you.
This is one of those tough ones where you have to grade it based on the pilot, even if you've seen a lot of the show when you know the spinoffs. I'm going to say this is a green light for the last 5 minutes alone. The first chunk of the show, it'd be hard to green light because, again, there's some unlikable characters. The situation doesn't make that much sense. But Ed Asner in the apartment with Mary for that last scene makes you want to see the next episode. This is obviously a classic show. We watched a bunch of it as kids. I don't think, per our conversation, that it's going to make any young kids our age then start watching it now. One thing I will say, too, to our wrestling fans who listen, the Ed Asner movie, The Wrestler, is a very good watch. It's usually free on Amazon, and I would check that out. It also takes place in Minneapolis. So, green light for me.
Berg.
It's going to be a cancel for me. It's just fucking boring and poorly written. And one thing I say is I've always found Mary Tyler Moore boring, but it was always written well. And you can't say the same thing about this pilot. I agree with Joe that last scene is good, but it's not enough for me to pass the show as a whole, pilot as a whole. This is like badly done. I don't like what they did. I can't say I don't like what they did to Rhoda because this is the first time seeing Rhoda. I don't like this version of Rhoda. I don't like Phyllis on it. I don't like that serial killer kid she has. And it just didn't do it for me. I was bored and confused by a lot of the direction these characters went. So that's a cancel from me.
I'll jump in here. I'm actually on the same boat as Joe. I had a lot of issues with a lot of the storytelling. I think there was a lot of holes that bothered me. I don't understand. I really don't like how they presented the dynamic of her and Bill's relationship. And I think Phyllis and her daughter characters were not fleshed out enough here. But all the workplace stuff really did it. Like, if we could focus more on her work life and everything with Lou Grant, I thought was hilarious. We get 4 seconds of Ted Baxter. I want more Ted. But yeah, that last scene where Lou's drunk, I thought was genuinely very funny. And that's enough to hook me. That was enough to be like, all right, this show, I'm digging this. So it's getting a green light for me. But yes, it certainly needs work. But there's enough stuff I really like that I feel like if you just focus on those things, we're good. Gordo.
So I'm also going to greenlight it. I think we're all forgetting too. Mary is very likable in this whole episode. She's very endearing. Like, you don't want to root against her. You don't she doesn't do anything. Like, she just makes herself likable. And I can see that's why obviously this show did so well and why she was successful prior to being on this show. But as you get introduced to the workplace, as you get introduced to some of these other characters like Rhoda and stuff, you know, they got to tweak it a little bit, but the writing is there. The bones of the show is there 100%. I don't know how you cancel it. So with that being said, I got a green light one for Mama Gordon.
So with that being said, that's 3 out of 4. So regardless of Nick's score, congratulations to the Mary Tyler Moore Show. You do get a green light. Gordo, I do want to say, I do agree with you. I think one thing we didn't harp on enough is how charming Mary Tyler Moore is throughout the episode. I think we kind of glossed past that a lot. Maybe another fault of the episode is they didn't give her enough shine. And there was a lot of like her being kind of overtaken by other characters a lot. So there wasn't enough time where she was like the scene stealer. But yeah, she's phenomenal. Yeah, so congratulations, Mary Tyler Moore again. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you again next week with another new episode. We have episode 4 out of 5 next week of Mother's Month. So that will be my mom's pick. Listen in. Until then, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all our links to everything. Buy a t-shirt, follow us on all our social media platforms, rate, review, subscribe, shoot us a DM and email, let us know shows you want us to cover, say hello, do whatever you want, just converse with us. It's nice talking to you guys. But that's it. That's all time we have for this week. So until next time, thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Uncle Buddy.